Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real Influencers Project. I'm your host, Craig Reynolds, and with my special guest today, Miss Ellie McKinney. Hello, Ellie. How are you?
Hey, what's up? I'm doing good, doing good. So excited to talk to you and see your face right now. This is great.
I haven't physically seen you in a very, very long time, but I think the last time you and I were sitting with Mary Julia eating burritos in some taco joint.
That was a good day. That was so great.
Yes, that was really fun, and then after that, things slowly went downhill. I'm sorry, it went downhill very fast with no brakes. Let's be real.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean,
Sometimes life just hits us with a downhill. So,
right.
yep.
And we rolled with it, and here we are, which is I enjoy this. I feel like everything always happens for a reason. Similar to this project, and I'm not sure if you know, you're an amazing wedding photographer, portrait photographer, and
Yep.
having you on here is special for me because I love photography. Like I love doing this show. Like to me, it is part of what I do. And my whole premise to this project was I was doing a photo project of all the people that influenced me growing up, which is a lot of my friends back in Chicago, a lot of the BMX people I knew growing up racing. So I'm going to road trip back to Chicago, stop along the way and shoot portraits of these people. At
So
some point, I have to get back out to California and get some portraits out there as well. And then I want to make a small little book and give it to them as gifts with little explanations or little stories about an influential part of our being growing up. And that's how it started. A good friend of mine, Mr. Justin Ottman, said you need to make that a video or make that some kind of production. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of cool. And he told me Zoom does this and you can do it this way. And I thought, that's
oh,
brilliant. And literally, Ellie, the day he told me about it, I came home, set up the account. I called my friend Vicky. We did a test run, and I'm like, that's it. I'm doing it. I've got 25 of these things done
yes. And I was
now. Of
watching them,
this.
and they're so inspirational from everybody's point of view, and how you just
Hmm.
naturally have fun conversations with these people who have influenced you, but also are influencing people who are watching. So it's
Right.
uplifting to just be able to be a part of. So I'm super honored that
Well,
you asked
everyone
me
has
to be.
everyone has yeah, exactly. Everyone has such good stories, right? I love the story behind the story. I mean, knowing that you're this incredible photographer, how did you get there? Like, what was it? Who's influenced your photography, and what was the reason? Like, I love those things. To me, that's the documentary. So, without further ado, when we first met, we were managing separate Michael Kors stores,
Yes.
and you were discussing wanting to be a photographer again. And I was like, again? Where does this again come from? And how did you get there?
Yeah.
And you live in Winston-Salem, right?
Yes.
Right. And have you always, did you grow up there? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Lexington, North Carolina, which is close enough to count as Winston-Salem, and then
Right.
went to undergrad in Greensboro, and then lived in Chapel Hill for a little bit while my husband was getting his doctorate. So North Carolina, born and raised, of course, and during the time I worked for Michael Kors was also in North Carolina, not too far from where you were.
Right. Exactly. So when did you first get into photography? How did that come about?
Man, this story, you hear it as an established photographer and you kind of cringe, but everybody's got to start somewhere, right?
You have to. No matter how wild it is, you've got to start.
Yes. So with the retail background, I loved visual merchandising and was a part of that niche for a long time.
Yep.
And my cousin was getting married and she needed someone to take engagement photos. And she said, Ellie, you'll be great at this. You're great at visual merchandising. You can do photos, right? And I, of course, was so excited. I was like, I bet I probably could.
Right.
Just, I'm like, this
Right.
is my cousin. If they're awful, she can hire somebody else. This is really no big deal. So I borrowed my uncle's camera. So I didn't even know how to use it. It was in auto, and then I couldn't figure out why things weren't turning out correctly. So I turned it on manual for a few and then went back to auto, just trying to mess with things to make it more visually appealing for the photo. And I honestly fell in love with it from there. She ended up loving them. Looking back, she was being super supportive. I'm not sure they were worthy, but she ended up asking me to photograph her wedding. So it went from 0 to 100 real quick.
Right.
And I said yes because I was so thrilled and excited. And it was really a do-it-yourself wedding. Like, all the family members were helping in some way. And so I just thought, no, this is something I can contribute, and I think I can get at least the basics. And she wasn't being picky or anything like that. So I said, let me try for this. And after that, I started taking on more weddings. After the
Amazing.
one. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
That is fast forward, no doubt, because the wedding industry for photographers is massive. Like, I've talked to a couple of people, like, if you don't shoot weddings, you might as well just keep it as a hobby.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I guess. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. No, I
But that's
truly
huge.
believe like the success in niches. So whether I have some friends who do commercial work or boudoir or stick specifically with elopements. And it's funny, but the more of a niche you can create, the bigger of an expert you become. So then you're known for people to go to for, let's say, one of my best friends, we started the same year in 2011. So all this happened in 2011.
Oh my gosh, right.
Yes. And so whenever I had met you, there was like a 3 or 4 year break where I hadn't touched a camera because I was so obsessed with being the best at where I was in my career.
Right.
That there was no time. And you can understand how hard it is to balance some of those things, especially with like a retail schedule.
Oh, for sure. Because it's wild, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you've got weeks in advance to figure out what you've got to do.
Yes. And it's got to fit into that exact schedule.
Yes. Fun.
And for photography, it doesn't work. It didn't work hand in hand to where it became too overwhelming. So I just said, let me be the best at what I'm doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
But rewind to whenever I started doing other weddings, I feel like I don't fit into the same category as other photographers sometimes because I am so business oriented. I love marketing and branding and communication and all of these pieces that aren't exactly on the artsy side. So it's funny, but my photography had to really catch up because I was already marketing myself and ready to take on new clients, which was it was a weird route to take, but yes.
Right. Well, I know you have seen, obviously, the better you market and the more you tell people how good something is, they believe it and they go for it.
Yes.
So if you're telling them how great you are, yes, you gambled on yourself, right? We had that conversation, right? But we'll get there in a little bit. So when you were in retail and you were away from the photography side of things, how much did you miss it?
I went through, because 3 years is quite a long time to take like a break, So it was almost like it was out of my mind, and I'm a bit of a workaholic. It was a surprise.
Really?
I was so focused on trying to figure out what I could do for Michael Kors that I sort of like left myself behind a little bit. Mm-hmm. And there was one time where the friend I mentioned earlier, where we started the same year, he had started picking up on some projects. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh no, I need to be in there too. I'm missing out on this creative field and really making myself feel empowered to go for a goal. That's more than just about myself or a company. This is about people's lives and the most important day of their life at that time. And so that was right around the time I talked to you, and I was like, I need to get back in this.
Right. And this was around the time that you had your son too, right?
Yes. It all came together. So that
I remember that conversation
Yeah.
so well because we had already had Max,
Yes.
and you were saying, man, I feel like I need to go back into retail, but we just had our son. And I think almost verbatim, I said, you're not going to get that time back with your son when he grows. If you can swing it and that you can have your own schedule and be a photographer, you need to do that because then you're going to have more time with him. And
Yes.
I swear, because I know I've had that conversation with myself, but I'm pretty sure that was verbatim what I
That's
suggested.
exactly. Speaking of influencers, you were one of my main influences. Let's turn this interview around. No, but it really was, close friends and people who understood, how we didn't know each other really in depth or like for a
Right.
long period of time. But when you connect with somebody and you sort of just have this relation where you're like, I get you. And you
Yes.
get me. And so I feel like that's what we had. And whenever you sent me that in a text, it was like an aha moment. It was
Right.
like the light bulb went off and I just thought, oh no, I'm doing this and here's somebody else seeing I can and saying this will be worth it.
Yep.
Let me just try. Yeah.
Retail will always be there. With the experience that we have, we can bounce out and come back to it because it's going to be there. But being able to share that gift that you have as a photographer and being able to share that gift as a mom, which is the most important job you will ever have in your life, to be there,
Absolutely.
I would kill to be able to trade off and have more time with my family. So knowing that you had that opportunity, I didn't have a choice but to tell you, hey, look, I promise you, you
Yeah.
need to really do this because it's that important and you care about it too. So with that being said, you have a really beautiful style. The look that you present when you post your photos is amazing. Um,
Yeah.
who are some of your influences as far as other wedding photographers or other portrait photographers? Are you like, I love their style and I kind of want to emulate it, but I want it to be my own?
Yes. There's been a few. The industry changes so much. And so you have these newer people who grow really fast. And like I kind of found myself in that field where seasoned photographers were like, who is this chick coming in here?
Right.
And then you have like your really great go-tos. And so Benj Heish, he was one who I looked up to. So he's a wedding photographer, but he also does film. And so he has this, I would love to get there one day, still working on it, but he has all of this knowledge about film and how to bring that into a client experience on their wedding day to offer them like actual prints from a film camera. And
Right.
just from client experience to his whole aesthetic, I was inspired by that. And it really came down to his personality being welcoming and warming no matter how high he got up on the chain. And then also being able to give that different experience for clients, all with like a film inspired look. So whenever I edit, I try to make it more film inspired to sort of represent what got me motivated and excited to do this job.
Do you have a film camera?
No, I'm asking for one for Christmas.
It is the greatest
Oh,
thing ever.
I feel. Tell me
The
more.
best.
Tell me more.
It is the best. It will slow you down because you will shoot with our digital camera and check the back, check the
Yeah.
histogram. The film makes you slow down, really compose in your mind, make sure that your exposures are right, and then you shoot, and then you hope that you got it. Like it's so cool because then you've really slowed the process down.
Yeah.
And then when you go back to your film or your digital camera, you've slowed it down again and you can really start to compose before you shoot. And it's wonderful. And the look of film is the most beautiful, creamy thing ever. It's the
It's
best.
so yummy. So
Ah,
yummy. I'm like looking behind you and see your cameras right now. I spotted
oh
them
yeah.
earlier when
Yeah.
we first started talking.
My little camera collection. My uncle was an AP photographer way back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And then when we're at BMX races, my dad always had a camera and was always shooting. And then as I was a sponsored athlete, I had to be in front of the camera. And I always loved cameras, always. And I always wanted to have one. And I started to collect them and shoot them. And half of those I still use. Or maybe not half. A bunch of them I use. There's some
That's
really cool ones over there.
And it's funny because as soon as I get in the creative industry, it's always hard because you have these really high highs, but then you can go into the low lows. And it's this roller coaster of emotion behind your work because you're so connected to an art form. And so for me, I will take, to get back into the groove of things, if I'm feeling a little out of it, I think a film camera is going to be amazing because right now I just take like my instant film camera or like one of my old digital ones, and so I come up with like this self project of trying to make something cool out of these little other cameras I have that don't have half of the you know, things that are abilities that my other cameras can do. So I feel like film's going to be a whole new level of that.
It is the greatest. There's been weeks, months that I don't shoot anything but film. Like that's it. I'm gonna just take a break from the digital and use film because it's fantastic. So speaking of personal projects, it's easy when you have kids. You're like Sally Mann, right? We all turn into Sally Mann when we have kids, right? We're like, I'm just shooting my kids. I got a bazillion photos of my kids, and sometimes I'm like, you need to branch out and shoot some other people because I love portraits. Go shoot a portrait of someone other than your kids.
Yes.
You can't, but it's so cool because you're like, I'm documenting their whole life.
Yes. And it's all, on the flip side, sometimes I like have mom guilt because I have come to a point where I'm so busy, like time away from the camera is also needed. So then he'll look so cute, and I'm just one to quickly go to my cell phone and be like, this is going to be the perfect way to capture this right now.
Right.
Can still be in the moment. But the little photo shoots where I get to like dress him up because he still doesn't have that much of an opinion on what he wears. Thankfully, those moments are just too cool because, you know, kids and their facial expressions and personalities, there's just nothing like it.
Nothing at all. And especially when they're comfortable because, oh, it's mom with the camera, it's dad with the camera. I can do whatever I want and it's going to be cool.
Yeah, yes.
And I hear what you're saying about not always wanting to have the camera in your face. The first time we took Max to the beach, Julia's like, do you want to bring the camera? And I'm like, nope, because I want that first experience to be etched into my mind. And I remember walking out over these steps, and the first time he saw it, I watched him. I didn't even watch going down the stairs. We could have crashed. But I'm watching his expression, and I'm like, I will never forget this. I will never, ever forget this moment. And I didn't want to have something blocking me and them. But that being said, you know, it's great to have our cell phones that have cameras. And I read a quote, someone said that the best camera you have is the one that you have with you.
Yes. Yeah.
So, which is really true because these cameras or these phones now are pretty nuts.
Yeah, they're great. They're great, honestly.
Right?
Sometimes it's worth to soak up the moment, like you said, instead of trying to get the picture perfect memory, you're really just trying to actually make those in your mind. And I think that's one of the coolest things about being a wedding photographer is you allow everybody else to do just that, which is great.
And what is it about wedding photography that you were really drawn to? Was it because that was how you cut your teeth, or was there something else about it that you're like, this is what I do?
Yes, I am a hustler. So anything that challenges me, involves a lot of people, helps me feel like I am making a difference is where it's at for me. So in the beginning, I really thought I wanted to be maybe a branding photographer where I would do branding photo shoots for different businesses. Like if somebody worked in nutrition or for dentist office who wanted like an updated 2020, maybe not 2020, we won't count that year, but newer.
I think everyone's erasing this year, yeah.
Yes, it doesn't count. Lifestyle shoot that could be used for like updated social media to get people intrigued that way. And it was on a roll and I was doing really well. I had almost booked full time with just branding shoots, which was huge. And then I realized something was missing. And after every shoot, while I enjoyed it, I didn't feel like I was enjoying the craft as much. And I realized I liked the imagery just as much, but the interaction and meeting new people every single week. Like, you know, my job's kind of weird. I get new clients all the time, and I don't have reoccurring clients anymore because I'm just a wedding photographer. So my clients are brand new people to me. A lot of times I hardly shoot at the same venue twice, other than like a handful. So it ends up just being a new adventure every single week, new surprises and things to overcome, and new love stories. So it's just fresh on fresh on fresh content and experience that just drives me to go for it.
That's pretty awesome. I like the way that you're feeling influenced by that newness all the time. Like, that's really cool. And as a former store manager, you still do some sort of management in that role, but I did see that you've been kind of building a team of people. How does that work out? How's that going for you?
At first I was so excited. It was like a roller coaster of emotions with this too. I'm like, yes, let's get this team going, because I have a branding person, someone who helps me with socials, my new website people. I got a mentor because I mentor other people, and I thought, well, what better way to know how to create that best experience than to do it myself. And then people who help me shoot on wedding days. And so it started from looking at maybe having one person to help me to now I have like a team of 6 where we consistently work together on different goals. It makes my job more doable because as an entrepreneur, it's hard to concentrate on everything at once.
Right.
There's just so many directions and things that you're in charge of that make it exhausting. So these people are my uplifters. They help me think of things in new ways and create experiences for clients that I could not do on my own. So it has been absolutely wonderful.
What a fantastic way to share different knowledge and experience and combine them into one awesomely cool package.
Yes.
Right. So where do you want to go with it now? Do you want to continue with weddings? Do you want to, I've seen you've traveled a whole bunch with your weddings as well, doing some destination weddings. Where do you see it going from here?
I'm in a really fun spot. I'm so excited you asked, because this is newer for me.
This is why I do this. This is why I do it.
Yes. Let's talk about it. So I am a goal-oriented person, and I set a goal and beat it a little too harshly. So I had 68 weddings this year.
Whoa.
There's 52 weekends in a year, you know, like
that's double booking kind of.
That's a lot. So the great part about that is that elopements on Tuesdays and Thursdays are also counted in that number. So there are some fun days that I get to go to the mountains, hike for half an hour to beautiful views, and get people saying I do. So there's a mix between the 68 where they're not all full 200 people weddings. And then of course with COVID, 28 of them have been rescheduled. So they're, you know, and that's okay. We got to figure this
rightfully
all out together. So it also gave me a little break. Weird how things work out. So,
well, I mean, maybe it was a break that you didn't realize you needed.
Yeah, I did not realize I needed, but it helped me to come up with this new goal of following education. And, you know, at Michael Kors, I loved being in different environments, meeting different people, talking about strengths and opportunities. And so I'm going to take the drive that I have for the business behind photography and create email templates for other photographers that go along with a course about how to use them, and all of these key pieces that normally artists aren't as excited about because they want to create, but to take my passion and to really be able to make it easier for other photographers to incorporate some of the things that I do into their businesses to make it easier. So I'll be taking on less weddings next year, but I'm really excited to get the education side ramped up and to start introducing people to different ways of thinking about the photography industry and make it not so overwhelming.
Very, very cool. You are never one to not have something going on. That I learned that very, very fast.
It is so
Quickly.
true.
Yes. Well, if someone is interested in working with you on some levels, how would they go about finding you?
Yes, so photographers always love Instagram. It's a great place to go. So I'm on there as Ellie McKinney Photography, and then my website is elliemckinneyphotography.com.
Excellent. Ellie, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. It has been far too long since we've had a chance to see each other and chat. So thank you for making that time today.
So true. Thank you for having me, for sure.
Absolutely. I needed an excellent photographer on here, and it was you. So thank you very much.
Awesome.
Well,
You
give
just
my
saying
best.
that is unreal. I'm trying to just like take in this moment. Here we are.
I know, right? Well, give my best to your family, please, and I will continue to follow you and obviously send you messages as much as I can.
You're awesome.
So,
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And if you guys like what you're seeing, please make sure you subscribe here on YouTube, and you can always check us out on Apple Podcasts as well and subscribe there. Thanks a bunch. We'll see you next time.